So obviously, I want to get back as soon as possible. That's the plan. But I'm also aware that with eyes, you got to be careful. So they don't really know when I'm going to be back at the moment. I'm still like not even clear to train or do anything. Um, they're talking about doing surgery on both eyes. They're talking about injection. I have to get an injection in the eyeball soon.
Jeez.
Um, so I'm not looking forward to that. So yeah, I don't really know at this point. I don't know.
The reports are out that the UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. And he said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total shit show right now. And it's been a shit show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time, and then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones debacle, I guess you would call it. Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, if he is gone, John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight division was the strongest it had ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are carrying the sport of MMA and definitely carrying the UFC. More to come.
Then, within the realms of reality, you don't put George St. Pierre versus Khabib. What do you think it could be in conjunction with what do you hope it is? And I had a real outlier. Supposed to be like my hot take of the day. And I put Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight championship. And I thought this was going to be, hot take, guess what, chill. So then Ian Parker gets asked the exact same thing. And Ian Parker on his card projected Alex Pereira.
Tom Aspinall was just told to vacate his hard-earned interim UFC title, a belt he fought through absolute hell to secure. His response? An absolute bombshell that has rocked the entire fight game. He demanded his release from the UFC. This isn't just a contract dispute, folks. This is a defiant, career-defining stand against the most powerful organization in combat sports. The corporate machine dared to question his legitimacy, trying to strip away what he bled for, but Aspinall fired back, threatening to walk away from everything. It's a brutal game of high-stakes poker, and we're about to see who blinks first in this unprecedented power struggle. The very foundation of championship integrity is crumbling before our eyes.
I do believe that there is a scenario, specifically the White House card. If it doesn't happen on the White House card, then this probably isn't a conversation that we need to have. But I do believe there's a scenario where an interim title could go, and in the report that was deemed to be a troll, it said that Tom was asked to vacate. If the belt was to come off of Tom, it would be something polite like that. It would be something polite like you're being asked.
This isn't some polite negotiation. This is Dana White playing psychological warfare, a direct shot fired at a man who clawed his way through the heavyweight division's most brutal gauntlet to earn that interim strap. The UFC's cold, calculated move aims to strong-arm their champion, betting on their immense power to dictate his entire career trajectory. They want to strip him of his hard-earned gold, disrupt his momentum, and effectively sideline a legitimate threat because he doesn't fit their immediate narrative. It's a dangerous precedent, forcing champions to choose between their belts and their freedom, exposing just how ruthless this sport truly is.
And the reason that I'm very confident that if anyone's going to be shown grace, it's going to be Tom. The reason I'm very confident not only is because of what Tom had to go through to get there. If you remember that timeline, Tom went through hell. It was a very unlikely scenario that he went through to earn the distinction of being champion. But also, he was hurt with a technique that is not allowed in the cage. That's very different. It really is very different than if somebody comes out with like this training room story. You know, I was in practice and...
Think about the sheer guts, the fight IQ, to put your entire career on the line like that. Aspinall's request for release is a masterclass in psychological warfare, demonstrating he profoundly understands the brutal reality. This isn't a sport, it's a business. If you're not valuable enough to be respected, then you're valuable enough to walk away. This act reveals the shocking power dynamics at play when a champion would rather be free than hold what the machine deems a meaningless belt. It's a desperate stand against an organization trying to diminish his accomplishments and break his spirit before he even steps back in the octagon.
You have rules, you have all these things in place to keep that person safe. That person is now not safe. It like just kind of changes the dynamic slightly. And that watered down statement, watering down that Tom was asked, in some ways made it more believable. Like, I don't fault Josh Thompson for believing this. Not only do I not fault him, I don't know that it's entirely wrong. I do think there is legs to the idea of Pereira at heavyweight.
The UFC asked Aspinall, the man who earned that interim title with pure undeniable violence, to simply hand it back. You don't politely ask a champion to surrender his gold. You issue an ultimatum. This is Dana White's machine attempting to strong-arm a fighter, crushing any sense of championship integrity for future challengers. It's a psychological gut punch, a brutal reminder that your title isn't truly yours if it doesn't align with their pay-per-view projections. Aspinall's pushback, demanding his release, is the real consequence of this power play, the ultimate show of force from a fighter who knows his worth.
Who do you put him with? And what's the point of doing it? Has there ever been a champion in the history of the UFC to change weight classes but not fight for a belt? No. And if that riddle confused you, what I'm saying is, has there ever been a champion that's a sitting champion that leaves the division, still is champion, didn't vacate, remains champion, fights in a different weight class where it wasn't for a title? No. I don't think there's any room that Pereira would fight Ciryl Gane just because.
And what makes this situation even more galling? Tom's current physical state. He doesn't even know when he'll be back at 100%. Doctors are talking about surgery on both eyes, and he has to get an injection directly into his eyeball soon. This isn't some minor tweak, this is a severe career-threatening injury. The man is still not even cleared to try and do anything, facing an uncertain recovery timeline. Yet, amidst this personal battle, the corporate machine moved to exploit his vulnerability, asking him to vacate the very symbol of his hard-won achievement. It's an unprecedented level of pressure.
Like, I want to pick my words because I do have grace towards Tom, and so I don't want to be insensitive about that. But an interim belt is very different. It means just that in the interim, in the meanwhile, as we get on with it, right? So there wouldn't be anything bad there towards Tom. I don't even know that would bother him, quite frankly. And he wants to fight Ciryl, and at UFC 300, he wanted to fight Pereira. So if those two fought, Tom would fight the winner of Ciryl and Pereira. I mean, in many ways, it would give Tom what he's already said he wanted.
Adding insult to injury, Aspinall was hurt by a technique that is reportedly not even allowed in the cage. This isn't just a training room mishap, this is a completely different scenario, one where the rules designed to keep a fighter safe failed him. The circumstances surrounding his injury should have earned him grace, understanding, and protection from the promotion, especially given the hell he went through to get where he is. Instead, the UFC's response was to demand he surrender his interim gold, turning his legitimate injury into a strategic weakness for corporate maneuvering.
The clock is ticking. And of all the things that we've heard about the White House Guard, we can't reconcile them. They cannot all be accurate. There's going to be nothing but title fights. There's only going to be 6 to 7 fights. Connor's coming back. Jones versus Pereira for no good reason, and we want to see the match. Like, they just can't all be true, and we're running out of time. Pereira put out an interview recently, and he did talk about heavyweight again. And whether Pereira's going to heavyweight or not, Pereira's not a guy that does what we call troll the media. If you hear it from Pereira, that's the way it is. He does not.
The heavyweight division itself has devolved into an absolute shock show, spiraling out of control ever since Jon Jones entered the picture. Remember, Jones didn't want to fight the then interim champion, Tom Aspinall. Instead, the UFC allowed him to fight Stipe Miocic, a decision that completely derailed the division. This entire situation has left the heavyweight landscape on hold, a complete disaster since the initial Jon Jones debacle. The once pinnacle division, along with light heavyweight, is now arguably the worst it has ever been, abandoning its role as a pillar of the promotion.
And never in this interview, or the one before that, or the one before that, has he talked about Olberg. So, for that reason, as we've still got a little time on the clock to get our guesses in, I do believe that Pereira is going to be on that card. Very much so. I'm quite sure Pereira is going to be on that card. The question is, who is it going to be against? And if Pereira is talking about heavyweight, I don't believe that he would go up just for a match. I've never seen a champion, and neither have you, to leave his division for anything less.
The consequences of this organizational chaos are staggering. Jailton Almeida, a rising heavyweight contender, is reportedly gone, released from the promotion. Jon Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division, further cementing the uncertainty. We have a mess, a genuine disaster on our hands, in what used to be the most prestigious weight class in MMA. These divisions, once the pillars that carried the promotion, are now shadows of their former selves, replaced by the lighter weight classes as the true driving force of the sport.
What are they saying right now in terms of what the recovery time will be, what you're facing when you could be back to 100%?
Indeed, the 135, 145, 155, and 170-pound divisions are currently carrying the entire sport of MMA, definitely carrying the UFC. This stark contrast highlights a shocking shift in power and prestige within the organization. While the heavyweight division stagnates in political limbo, fighters in the lighter classes are consistently delivering the high-octane action and compelling narratives that captivate audiences and drive pay-per-view numbers. This radical change in the sports landscape underscores the gravity of the UFC's current handling of its former flagship divisions and their champions. Now, whispers are growing louder about another massive shakeup, Alex Pereira moving to heavyweight. While this might sound like an outlier, even a hot take, influential voices like Ian Parker are projecting Pereira for the interim heavyweight championship, possibly against Cyril Gane. Pereira himself recently spoke about heavyweight in an interview, and he's not known to troll the media. If you hear it from Pereira, it's serious. This adds another layer of intrigue and potential controversy to an already chaotic heavyweight picture, hinting at drastic measures to inject life into the division. The possibility of Pereira at heavyweight isn't just for a match, he's a champion, and champions in the UFC rarely, if ever, leave their division for anything less than a title fight. This suggests that if Pereira does make the jump, it would be for something significant, like an interim belt, further validating the rumors. This dramatic shift could see the UFC bypass a legitimate interim champion in Aspinall for a marquee name purely based on pay-per-view potential, demonstrating their willingness to completely rewrite the rules of progression for business reasons. Many believe that an interim belt for Pereira at heavyweight is a plausible scenario, especially if the rumored White House card happens. However, reconciling all the swirling rumors about this alleged card is impossible. They simply cannot all be accurate. We hear about only title fights, only 6 to 7 fights, Conor McGregor coming back, and even Jon Jones versus Pereira for no good reason. The truth is murky, but the consistent talk of Pereira at heavyweight indicates a real possibility. The UFC is exploring a path that might exclude Aspinall's immediate return. This relentless pressure on Aspinall is more than just a contract dispute. It's a brutal psychological war. Stripping a champion of his hard-won momentum and championship status sends a chilling message to every fighter on the roster. They watch this unfold, knowing their career, their main event spots, their entire trajectory can be derailed by a single phone call. It's a gut punch, forcing them to question everything they've bled for, making them wonder who truly controls their legacy in this unforgiving business. This isn't a sport, it's a machine. The UFC's actions expose the cold, hard reality of their championship system. Your ranking, your belt, your very career means nothing when Dana White wants a different narrative. Aspinall pushing back against this isn't just about money or title shots. It's a defiant stand against the machine itself, a refusal to be a pawn in their corporate chess game. The consequences for his legacy could be absolutely devastating, yet he chooses to fight for his principles, demonstrating an unyielding courage in the face of immense corporate pressure, refusing to let them dictate his narrative. The entire saga begs the question, what does this tell us about loyalty in this game? Aspinall fought through hell, a truly unlikely scenario, to earn his distinction as champion. He was then hurt by an illegal technique, a circumstance that should garner grace. Yet the UFC's response implies a lack of loyalty, demanding he surrender his leverage. This highlights a stark truth for all fighters. Loyalty is a one-way street, and the organization's interests will always supersede a fighter's individual journey, even one as brutal and deserving as Tom's. While an interim belt is, by definition, in the interim, meaning in the meanwhile, and theoretically wouldn't be bad for Tom to vacate, the manner of the request and his subsequent demand for release changes everything. It's not just about the temporary nature of the belt, it's about the principle and the power play behind it. The UFC isn't simply getting on with it, they are actively putting the screws on him, demanding he surrender his only leverage, effectively telling him, "You're not a real champion until we say so, kid." It's important to remember that Aspinall has previously expressed a desire to fight Cyril Gane and even Alex Pereira at UFC 300. If Pereira and Gane were to fight for an interim title and Aspinall then faced the winner, it would in many ways give him what he's already said he wanted. However, the critical difference here is agency. He wants to fight them, not be forced to vacate his earned title and then fight the winner, especially after being asked to release. It fundamentally shifts the dynamic from choice to coercion, from champion to bargaining chip. This isn't about Aspen all just wanting to fight, it's about the UFC trying to break his spirit before he even steps back into the octagon. They are stripping his moment, diminishing his accomplishments, and attempting to control his destiny. Every fighter, from the rising prospect to the seasoned veteran, watches this unfold and understands the brutal consequences. It makes you question everything you've bled for and who truly controls your legacy when the corporate machine demands you give back what you've earned through sheer will and violence. The bottom line is this: the heavyweight division is a total mess. Between Jon Jones's indefinite absence, the reported release of Jailton Almeida, and now the unprecedented power struggle with Tom Aspinall, the future is incredibly murky. What was once the premier division is now a chaotic battlefield of politics and corporate maneuvering. This disarray isn't just affecting the fighters, it's impacting the very credibility and narrative flow of the sport, leaving fans confused and legitimate champions in a perpetual state of uncertainty. This whole brutal saga truly tells us, folks, that when you see a warrior like Tom Aspinall, a man who literally bled for his gold, his legitimacy questioned, his momentum hijacked, and his very soul tested by the corporate machine, it exposes a harsh truth. In this unforgiving business, your championship belt, your hard-won victories, they are nothing more than bargaining chips in Dana White's personal chess game. Your legacy is constantly up for grabs, subject to the whims of the promotion, a stark reminder of who truly holds the power. Yet, this also showcases the raw, unyielding courage of a man who refuses to be broken. Aspinall isn't just fighting for a belt, he's fighting for his worth, for his legacy, for the right to control his own DM destiny. His defiant stand resonates far beyond the octagon, serving as a powerful message to every fighter and indeed anyone facing powerful forces in their own lives. It's a testament to unwavering conviction in a landscape designed to crush individual ambition and consolidate corporate control. Every single fighter watching this, every one of you facing down powerful forces in your own life, needs to understand this fundamental truth: the real championship isn't always won in the octagon. It's won when you stand defiant, when you refuse to let anyone dictate your narrative, even when the consequences threaten to be absolutely devastating. This is the ultimate test of a champion's will, a battle for self-determination against the overwhelming might of the machine, where integrity and freedom are the ultimate prizes. So fight for what's yours, and never ever let them strip you of what you've bled for. Let Aspinall's fight be a lesson. Your name, your legacy, your hard-won achievements are yours to protect. In a sport where titles can be rendered meaningless by corporate ambition, the only true gold is the control of your own narrative. Stand strong, know your worth, and challenge the forces that seek to diminish your accomplishments. The integrity of the championship system, and indeed the future of fighter autonomy, depends on it.